In this video, we'll be taking a look at 4 NFL games happening on December 14th, 2025, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 8 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 4 NFL games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start: if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Washington Commanders versus New York Giants. The Washington Commanders head to MetLife Stadium to face the New York Giants on Sunday in a Week 15 matchup that feels more like a stress test than a showcase. Both teams are stuck near the bottom of the National Football Conference, and you can honestly question how much real motivation either side has left, but the Giants are still a slight favorite at home. New York is 2-3 at home this season, and they get the benefit of coming off a bye week, which at least gives them fresher legs and a cleaner game plan. They have also been surprisingly competitive in 3 of their last 4 games, hanging around more than their overall record suggests, while Washington is coming off a flat, ugly performance against the Vikings that looked every bit like a team running on fumes. Washington has strung together some truly brutal losses this year. They have been blown out by at least 22 points in 3 of their last 5 games, and that kind of margin is not a fluke, it is a warning sign. Add in the injury issues they are fighting through, and you get a team that looks fragile both on the field and on the sideline. At some point, it is fair to wonder if the Commanders should just accept where their season is heading, protect Jaden Daniels, and focus on getting him help with a high draft pick rather than grinding him through meaningless punishment. On the other side, the Giants do not seem interested in waving any white flags yet, as they continue to roll with Jackson Dart, and if they insist on doing that, it makes sense to lean into the fact that they will probably have the better quarterback in this specific matchup. That edge, combined with a defense that feels at least somewhat more trustworthy in this spot, keeps nudging this game toward New York at home before you even look at the spread. When you pull it all together, from recent competitiveness to Washington's repeated no-show losses, the Giants look like the more reliable side to cover. As our first pick for this matchup, the New York Giants to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The most glaring matchup on the board is Washington's ground game against a Giants rushing defense that has been leaking yards at a ridiculous rate. They are coming off back-to-back losses to the Patriots and Lions, where they allowed 395 and 494 total yards, which already sounds bad, and it looks even worse when you realize they have given up 6.7 yards per carry over their last 3 games. That kind of number makes almost any running back look like a star, against a Commanders offense that ranks 4th in the league in rushing yards per game and is likely to be extra motivated after being shut out by the Vikings. That is a recipe for repeated chunk plays and long drives that chew up yards and put points on the board. Let me explain why the passing side of this matchup also tilts toward a high-scoring script. On the flip side, Jackson Dart is set up for a strong day against a Commanders secondary that has been one of the weakest units in the league this season. Washington has surrendered a league-worst 8.1 yards per completion per pass attempt, and on top of that, Jonathan Jones and Bobby Wagner both missed practice on Wednesday, which does not exactly inspire confidence in that defense tightening up. Even though the Giants have not stacked many wins, their passing game has actually produced very solid performance. They average 7.2 yards per pass attempt on the season, which sits in the upper third of the league, and that has climbed to 8.2 yards per attempt over their last 3 games, putting them in true top-tier territory recently. That combination of a struggling secondary and a quietly efficient passing attack tilts the game toward more explosive plays and more scoring chances. Both defenses come into this one as major liabilities. The Commanders have allowed at least 25 points in 6 of their last 7 games and are giving up 27.1 points per game on the road, which lands them near the bottom of the league. The Giants are not any better on their side, having surrendered 24 or more in 8 of their last 9 outings while allowing 28.2 points per game overall, which is even worse in the rankings. These are, very simply, 2 of the weakest defenses in the NFL this season, and that usually signals plenty of scoring when they share a field. Washington is likely to run all over this Giants front, given that 6.7 yards per carry trend, and Mariota brings enough poise to create some timely plays in the passing game, especially with the McLaurin and Samuel pairing available. Last week's ugly performance should light a fire under that offense to be far sharper and more productive, especially as they try to stop their 7-game slide with an aggressive approach. Dart, meanwhile, should have no shortage of chances against a soft Commanders pass defense. He is capable of giving the Giants offense a needed jolt, and even though New York's skill players have underwhelmed for long stretches, this matchup is kind to them because Washington sits dead last in yards allowed per pass attempt at 8.1. Put all of that together, and it becomes hard to see either defense consistently getting stops for 4 quarters. These two teams are a combined 0-15 over their last 15 games, which is rough, but that kind of chaos often brings wild swings and higher-scoring games, not careful, low-scoring chess matches. So while the wins are not coming, the points very much can, and this matchup at MetLife looks set up for exactly that kind of script. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Cleveland Browns versus Chicago Bears. How tight is the National Football Conference right now? One loss in Week 14 and the Chicago Bears tumble from the number 1 seed in the conference all the way down to the 7th and final playoff spot. That is a brutal reminder that a short skid can flip the whole bracket. Now they get a chance to reset at home against the Cleveland Browns in Week 15 on Sunday afternoon, and it feels pretty reasonable to expect Chicago to steady itself and get back in the win column. Covering more than a touchdown, though, is a very different conversation. Over the past 7 games, Ben Johnson's group has actually played more like a team that grinds than a team that blows opponents off the field. They have only one win in that stretch by more than 5 points, and that run includes matchups with the Bengals, Vikings, Giants, and a Ravens squad that has been sliding. That kind of profile usually screams good team, tough to blow out, also not a great candidate to lay big numbers with. When a team keeps letting opponents hang around, a spread over a touchdown starts to feel like you are paying a premium for style points that do not always show up on the scoreboard. On the other side, Cleveland is not exactly a juggernaut, but it is also not folding. Since their Week 9 bye, a run of 5 games, the Browns have only one loss by more than a touchdown. That speaks to a team that hangs in games even when the offense is not shining. The defense is the engine, sure, but the offense is no longer a complete slog. A big part of that is the quarterback spot. Shahir Sanders just put together his best outing as a pro last week against Tennessee, throwing for 364 yards and 3 touchdowns with only 1 interception. For a rookie, that is not just decent, that is genuinely encouraging, even if there will still be bumps in the road. He is far from a finished product and he will have his erratic days, but compared to earlier in the season when Joe Flacco and Dylan Gabriel were steering the offense, Sanders makes Cleveland look far more explosive and a lot less predictable. You can actually picture this unit hitting some chunk plays instead of hoping to win field position chess for 4 quarters. Given that setup, asking Chicago to win by more than a touchdown feels heavy. The Bears can certainly take the game outright, but the way they have been playing and the way Cleveland has been battling suggests a tight spread result that may come down to that hook on the number more than anything. As our first pick for this matchup, the Cleveland Browns to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Cleveland's path in most weeks has involved their defense dragging games into the mud a bit, and this matchup has plenty of ingredients for exactly that style. First, the conditions. It is going to be brutally cold in Chicago, with a forecast high around 12 degrees and the usual wind in the mix. Snow is currently expected on Saturday, which is sneaky important. If that system shows up late or hangs around, the footing and visibility could get messy on Sunday too. Even if the snow is gone, you are talking about bitter air and swirling wind that can turn routine throws and long kicks into small adventures. That sort of weather almost always nudges offenses toward the ground game and shorter passes, which naturally chews clock and trims total points. Cleveland's identity also leans to a defensive slugfest. The Browns sit near the top of the league in total defense, are the best group against the pass, and are second in sacks, so they are built to squeeze the life out of passing attacks. Myles Garrett already has a ridiculous 20 sacks on his own this season, outpacing every other pass rusher in the league, and there are entire teams that do not match that number as a group. His presence alone tends to shorten drives, ruin third downs, and force conservative calls. That is exactly the kind of star you want on your side if you are expecting a game that never really opens up. Chicago, for its part, may actually move the ball better than it stops people, but this is a run-heavy offense by design, and it becomes even more run-heavy in the cold. Those successful possessions then turn into long, methodical marches that burn minutes rather than quick strike drives that blow a total wide open. If Rome Odunze is out, as is very possible, the Bears lose one of their more dangerous downfield options, which tilts things even further toward the ground game and safe throws. Both teams are also leaning on young quarterbacks who still have to prove they can drive the ball consistently through harsh, windy conditions. That usually means more handoffs, more conservative calls on third and medium, and fewer deep shots. For Cleveland, that likely means a heavy workload for Judkins. For Chicago, it means trusting their stable of backs behind a physical line and letting the game be won in the trenches instead of trying to light up the sky. Given the weather setup, the defensive profile of Cleveland and the run-first tendencies on both sidelines, it is not a surprise that the odds makers have already priced this as a low-scoring environment. Everything here points toward a physical, slow, clock-eating contest that stays under the posted number rather than turning into a track meet. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Buffalo Bills versus New England Patriots. The Buffalo Bills head to Foxborough to face the New England Patriots on Sunday at Gillette Stadium, and this one has that classic late-season American Football Conference East tension written all over it. New England comes in off a bye, rested, probably sick of watching film, and very aware that this matchup swings a lot in the division pecking order. Buffalo arrives with more urgency, but not exactly short on firepower either. New England's last outing against the two-win Giants was quietly dominant, even if the opponent was nothing to brag about. The Pats rolled up 395 total yards, moved the chains for 21 first downs, and kept things clean with just 3 penalties. Defensively, they clamped down to 14 first downs and 239 total yards allowed, and even put a touchdown on the board themselves. That performance fits the broader pattern, since they have scored 23 or more points in every game during this current 9-game win streak, which is not a fluke run when you look at both their scoring offense and scoring defense sitting in the league's top 10. The recent history between these two helps shape the spread conversation too. Back on October 5th, New England went into Buffalo and stole a tight 23-20 win on the road. The Pats allowed 363 yards and 25 first downs, which sounds like trouble, but they bailed themselves out with 3 takeaways and by letting Buffalo beat itself with mistakes. The Bills committed 11 penalties for 90 yards, which is the kind of hidden yardage that tilts close games, and in this rivalry the underdog has covered in 7 of the last 10 meetings, which keeps popping into your head when you look at this number again. From Buffalo's point of view, you can still argue their side of the spread with a straight face. They are in what feels like must-win territory, and Josh Allen is exactly the kind of quarterback who can throw the plan out the window and still drag a team across the finish line on talent and sheer chaos energy. When you have that at quarterback, it is always tempting to lay points or trust a comeback, especially against a rookie on the other sideline. But here is the thing, New England has not lost a game since week 3. They are at home, and they had the luxury of a full bye week to reset and scheme specifically for Buffalo. The write-up notes they have won 10 straight and covered 7 of those, which basically tells you they are not just squeaking by, they are cashing tickets too. That line about loving my dogs that have had extra time to prepare is quirky, but the idea behind it is simple. A well-coached underdog with rest and a strong scoring profile is hard to bet against when you are being handed points. With the Pats combining a top 10 scoring offense, a top 10 scoring defense, and a track record of delivering in this matchup as the underdog, the case for taking the points stays pretty sturdy all the way through the handicap. As our first pick for this matchup, the New England Patriots to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Buffalo is fresh off that wild 39-34 comeback win over Cincinnati on December 7th, a game where Josh Allen accounted for 4 touchdowns and James Cook kept hammering away on the ground. The Bills are averaging 28.9 points per game and leading the league in rushing at 157.8 yards per game, which means they can attack you horizontally with the run and vertically with the pass, depending on what your defense gives up. They also rank second in total offense, which fits the story their box scores have been telling all year. On the other side, New England is not exactly plodding. Their most recent win over the Giants finished 33-15 on December 1st, and rookie Drake May put up 282 passing yards with 2 touchdowns, looking a lot more like a seasoned starter than a kid learning on the job. The Patriots are averaging 27 points per game, and they sit second in passing yards at 249.7 per game, which backs up the idea that this is a real top 10 offense and not just a team living off defensive scores or short fields. The defense is still strong and carries a reputation, but the write-up itself admits there have been cracks against high-powered attacks, and Buffalo absolutely qualifies as one of those. Both offenses enter this matchup playing at a high level, and the numbers paint that same picture again and again. Buffalo has that combination of explosive passing, dangerous quarterback scrambling, and a league-leading ground game, with Allen already responsible for 24 total touchdowns, which keeps drives alive even when the first read is not there. New England counters with an offense that stays efficient, throws the ball well, and finishes drives often enough to maintain a healthy average on the scoreboard. Buffalo's weak spot is against the run, which quietly matters a lot for the total. If New England can run effectively, they sustain drives, they stay on schedule, and they force Buffalo into aggressive responses, which often leads to longer games, more possessions with urgency, and more scoring chances on both sides. The mention of potentially snowy conditions does not automatically scream low scoring here. It actually feeds into the idea that the better rushing team and the team that can exploit run defense issues will still move the ball. In a game where both offenses are humming, both have clear paths to points, and both can attack the other's soft spots. It is hard to project a quiet scoreboard without talking yourself into something that the recent form does not really support. That is why the argument for a higher total holds together from start to finish, even if the weather adds a bit of drama to how they get there. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Tennessee Titans versus San Francisco 49ers. Tennessee finally grabbed their second win of the season with that 31-29 shootout against Cleveland, but the way it happened does not exactly scream long-term stability. Cam Ward hit only half of his throws for 117 yards, which is the kind of stat line that makes you squint at the box score and check if it was bad weather or just bad offense. It was Tony Pollard doing the real damage, carrying the load on the ground and basically dragging the Titans forward. That has been the pattern for a while too, with Ward held under 200 passing yards in 4 of his last 5 games and sitting on just 9 touchdown passes in 13 outings. When you walk into Levi's Stadium with that kind of passing production and face a Robert Saleh defense that likes to crank up the pressure, you are living a little dangerously, to put it politely. Now the setting shifts to San Francisco, and this is where the matchup really tilts. The 49ers are coming off their bye, so they should be rested, patched up, and probably a bit irritated about the National Football Conference West race. Each of their last 5 wins has come by double digits, which tells you this group does not just edge teams out, they pull away and keep pulling. Christian McCaffrey has been on a ridiculous run even by his own high standards, and he now lines up against a Titans defense that has allowed the second most rushing touchdowns and the second most passing yards per attempt. That combination, an explosive back with a complete skill set against a leaky front and secondary, usually ends one way, and it is not pleasant for the defense. San Francisco also has the context working for them. They are right in the thick of the National Football Conference West race and really cannot afford a slip-up in a spot like this. At Levi's, they are sitting at 3-2 this year, and they have allowed only 17 total points across their last 2 games, which hints at a unit that is starting to tighten the screws. Tennessee, on the other side, is 2-4 on the road and has given up at least 25 points in 4 of their last 5. That is the profile of a road underdog that often runs out of answers in the second half. Honestly, even before you get into advanced metrics, that gap in recent home and road form already nudges this matchup in one clear direction. What makes this more interesting is that the 49ers have already dealt with serious injuries in 2025 and still kept their level. Losing Fred Warner and Nick Bosa for the year would sink a lot of defenses, yet this group still looks organized and physical, which is a credit both to coaching and depth. Brandon Ayuk is probably done for the season as well, and Kyle Juszczyk is still questionable, but the offense has enough remaining firepower to lean on. Their last 7 games tell the story pretty clearly, with 5 wins in that stretch and all 5 coming by 10 points or more. When a team keeps stacking double-digit victories, it usually means their floor is high and their ceiling turns into blowout territory when things click. Tennessee's defense, meanwhile, leaves plenty on the table. They rank 26th in opponent red zone percentage at 63% and 30th in opposing passer rating at 103.7. That kind of mix, soft in the red zone and generous through the air, is precisely what you do not want against an offense that spreads the field and layers route concepts like San Francisco's. The Titans' offense is not exactly the trusty sidekick here either. In the last 3 weeks alone, they have lost 30-24 at home to Seattle, been blown out 25-3 by Jacksonville, then suddenly piled up 31 points on a solid Browns defense. That kind of swing looks wild on paper and makes it hard to feel confident they can keep pace if San Francisco gets into one of those stretches where everything works. With the Niners rested, still loaded with weapons, and used to winning by margin, they look much more likely to control this game from early on and keep the scoreboard comfortably in their favor. As our first pick for this matchup, the San Francisco 49ers to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The biggest driver toward a higher number is the 49ers offense getting healthier and sharper in recent weeks. They have scored at least 26 points in 4 of their last 5 games, which is what you want to see if you are thinking about an over. It is not just raw points either, it is the variety. McCaffrey can hurt you between the tackles or as a receiver. George Kittle still finds those soft spots in coverage that turn into chunk plays. Brock Purdy, after some bumps, looks like he is getting back into rhythm, reading the field quickly and taking what is there instead of forcing hero throws. When you give a unit like that an extra week to self-scout and freshen up, it usually adds another layer or two to the game plan. The matchup against this Titans defense also nudges things toward a higher scoring script. San Francisco ranks 7th in passing yards per attempt and 7th in passing touchdowns this season, which fits neatly against a Tennessee defense that has already struggled to keep opponents from attacking downfield. The Titans have trouble in the red zone, they have trouble with efficiency through the air, and they have already been giving up at least 25 points in most of their recent outings. That is exactly the kind of defense that can get stretched horizontally by Shanahan's play design, then hit vertically when safeties start cheating their eyes. If San Francisco gets rolling early, this could turn into a game where they keep piling on possessions with real scoring chances. On the other side, the Titans' offense is flawed but not dead, and that matters a lot if you are staring at an over ticket. Cam Ward has been pretty underwhelming for large stretches of the year, and that does not change just because of one good team win. Even so, he does now face a 49ers defense that, despite playing hard, has been chewed up through the air in some key areas. They have allowed the 6th most passing touchdowns and sit at the very bottom of the league in sacks with only 16. That lack of pressure can give any quarterback, even a struggling one, a bit more comfort, a split second more to find a throwing lane, or at least avoid back-breaking mistakes. When you combine that with a back like Tony Pollard, who just erupted for 161 rushing yards and 2 scores last week, you start to see a path where Tennessee chips in their share of points, sometimes even in garbage time. Their recent game log backs up the idea that variance and volatility are part of the package. 3 weeks ago, they hung 24 points on Seattle in a competitive loss. 2 weeks ago, they managed only a lonely field goal against Jacksonville. Then they exploded for 31 against Cleveland, a defense that usually holds up well. That roller coaster is frustrating if you want stability, but it is not the worst thing in the world for an over because it shows they do have a ceiling when things break their way. Add in the fact that San Francisco's pass rush has struggled to finish plays and their defense sits 27th in opposing passer rating at 101.1, and you can picture a game where the Titans find a few cracks, whether through Pollard on the ground or Ward hitting some intermediate windows. In practical terms, this sets up as a game where San Francisco is positioned to do most of the heavy lifting on the scoreboard, while Tennessee only needs to be functional and opportunistic to help push things across the projected number. If the Niners' offense looks anything like it has in 4 of the last 5 weeks, and the Titans bring even a middle-of-the-road effort rather than their worst, the total has a very realistic chance to land on the higher side. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.